Okay, hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about multiplying decimals by decimals. So you're going to need your foldable out so you can write down the steps. So our objective today is to be able to, I want you to be able to multiply a decimal by a decimal, and your language objective is I can write expressions from real world problems. I'm going to go ahead and explain the steps and then give you a little time to write it down. So the steps for multiplying or many math problems is you always want to start with estimating. Estimating, remember, allows you to have an idea of where you're going. So after you estimate, then you multiply the digits just like you normally would, kind of ignoring the decimals, and then we'll take some time to actually figure out how big our number is. And we can do that by counting the place values after the decimals to see how many place values we have used in this problem. Then we will move the decimal in the result that we got from step 1, and sometimes remember you must annex zeros or add zeros as place value holders. And 4, you need to check your answer. Make sure, is it reasonably close to what you got in your estimate? Okay, so you may want to pause the video at this point and take some time to finish writing down the steps. Now that you have the steps written down, make sure and take a few seconds here to write down the 2 different problems we're going to do, giving yourself a little room for work in your foldable. All right, the first problem we have is 4 2/10 times 6 7/10. So first thing we need to do is estimate our problem. So 4.2 is really close to 4. And 6.7 is really close to 7. So multiply that. Oh, I forgot to label my work. Estimate. So I don't forget what in the world I was doing here. So 4 times 7 is 28. So we're getting something near 28. And now we're ready to actually just go ahead and multiply the digits. So 4.2 times 6 7/10. Did you hear me read that wrong? That's okay. So 4 2/10 times 6 7/10. So now 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 1 is 29. Then we have place value holder. Annex that 0. Now we'll do the 6's. 6 times 2 is 18. Carry that 1 and use the same 1. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. Add those together. And we've got 4. Let's see, 9 plus 8 is 17. 2 plus 5 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. 2. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake. Sometimes they're like, oh look, I'm done. The answer is 2,874. But we know that it's really like 4 times 7, which is 28. So is it going to be 2,874? I think not. So now you can kind of probably estimate where your decimal is going to go. But if you want to know exactly, you need to count your place values. I have 1 place value behind the decimal in the first number and 1 in the second one. So I need to move it 2 spots from the end. So always at the end, move it 2 spots. And the true answer is 28 7/400, which is much more reasonable. Okay, so second problem here, it's a little different. You've got 1 4/10 times, this one's a little harder to read, so I have to think about my place values. So this is tens place, hundreds place, thousands place. So now tens place, hundreds place, thousands place. So 67 thousandths. So let me read that again. 1 4/10 times 67 thousandths. To multiply this one, you can set it up any which way you want because it's multiplication and that's commutative property. But I'm going to choose to have the 67 thousandths on the top because it's easier for me to multiply that way. That way I don't have 4 different place values to think about when I'm multiplying. I only have 2. So let me set that up. So 67 thousandths times 1 4/10. Now, I need to estimate so I know what kind of answer I'm going to get. So I'm going to go ahead and estimate over here. 67 thousandths, what is that really close to? Almost 0. But we're probably going to go around with 0 or 1. Because 0 is kind of special as it makes everything turn to 0 when we multiply it. So I'm going to pick 1. And then 1 4/10 is probably also 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. It's a very small number, so that's what that means. It's going to be somewhere in the 0 and the 1 range when we get done. So let's go ahead and do the math and see what we get. So we're going to start doing the second problem. 4 times 7 is, oh, looks like I've got a mouse. Okay, there we go. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24, 25, 26. Carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. Now, 1 times 7, or annex your 0, almost forgot there. Now, 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 6 is 6, and then multiplying by the zeros, not necessary. So, we're going to go ahead and put them back together. 8, 6 plus 7 is 13, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, now we have 938, which I hope you know is not the correct answer. Our estimate is 1. It could be 0, it could be 1, and that one's kind of tricky to find. Like last time, it was pretty obvious where the decimal was going to go between the 8 and the 7. But on this one, it could go in a couple different places. So it could go at the end, and it'd be 938. It could be between the 3 and the 8, and be 93 and 8/10, but that's probably not it. It could go between the 9 and the 3, and that'd be 9 and 38 hundredths, which somebody might think that was the answer. Or it could go before the 9 and be 0 and 938 thousandths. So, I mean, it could even go further. You could have an annex of place value here and put it here, and it would be 938 10,000ths. So you have to make sure you know exactly what the correct amount of place values used in the problem was. In order to do that, we go up and look and analyze what we've got. We've got something in the thousandths place and something in the tenths place. So 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So moving it over 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. And annex the 0, both between the decimal and the number and in front of the decimal. And we have the number 0 and 938 10,000ths. So the estimate is a helpful tool. It's not always the perfect answer. So make sure you know how big your answer is by checking your place values up here in the actual problem. Now I would like you to try 2 of these problems. So you pick 2 of them and do them in your on your foldable. And when you're done, raise your hand and have the teacher check the problems. So pause the video and do 2 of the problems. Now, we want to talk about some of the language the book uses for our homework later on. It says when the book asks you to justify your answer, it means to estimate the result. Make sure it's close to the answer you found. Justify means make sure you have good reason that you picked your answer, not just because. Because is not a reason. Because I estimate, so like for example, let me go back 2 slides. On these ones, I'm justifying by having the estimate, for example, the first one here, 4 2/10 times 6 7/10. I know it's around 28, so my answer is reasonable, and it's because I did lots of things. I did the math, and I did an estimate. So I have some real good reasons why I decided that was my answer. And that's what justify means. So if you have your estimate there, you're good for this assignment. We'll get into more complicated justifications in the next couple years. Okay, lastly we have a word problem. So we're not upping the math skill anymore, we're using our reading skill now. We have to put together what the problem says and write our actual problem. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and read the problem. A certain car can travel 28 4/45 miles with 1 gallon of gasoline. The gasoline tank can hold 11.5 gallons. How many miles can this car travel on a full tank of gas? Justify your answer. So you need to take a second and read that problem again and decide what your problem is and write, or what your problem is that you're going to write down. So we're studying multiplication right now, so it might be easy for you to pick which operation it is, but as soon I will mix them up for the test in a few days. So you need to have a reason why you're choosing multiplication. So looking at this problem, I'm going to go ahead and multiply 28 4/45 times 11.5 gallons. And why did I choose to do this? Well, it's because I'm reading. I know that every 1 gallon has that many miles. And I'm going to do that 11.5 times. You hear me say times? I'm going to go ahead and travel 28 4/45 miles 11.5 times. So I know I need to multiply. So I had to think about that. Sometimes there's a word clue in there. This one we had to think about. So now, problem's the same as it was in the last few slides. So go ahead on your paper and complete the problem. And don't forget, every single word problem must have a sentence at the end. So something like, this car can travel blank miles on a full tank of gas. I'm not going to say one. So go ahead, complete the actual problem, finish your sentence, raise your hand, have the teacher check your solution, and then you may start your homework.